talking today to Margaret Rooke, who is the Communications Manager of Liberation Foods. Margaret, tell me, what does Liberation Foods do and where did the idea come from?
So Liberation Foods is the UK's Fairtrade nut company. We supply 80% of the UK's Fairtrade nuts to the major supermarkets and also to European supermarkets and other outlets. We were established by an organisation called Twin, which it was itself established to work with marginalised groups of smallholder farmers in Africa, Asia and Latin America to help them grow their nuts in big enough quantity and good enough quality to sell them to the markets in the West, where they'll get a better price for their products and help them grow their communities and build better lives for themselves.
And how did the idea for Harry's Nuts come about?
Well, in 2002, Harry Hill became interested in fair trade. He visited...
And Harry Hill is a UK comedian.
Yeah, he was a stand-up comedian. He then became a very successful television personality. He's had a couple of very successful television series, in fact more than that. He then went to visit Fairtrade banana and cocoa farms in Ghana and came back very clear that by buying something which carries the Fairtrade mark, although people over here won't ever meet those people that they're helping, it really is something that can be very life-changing for farmers in other parts of the world. In fact, his brother is a farmer, which was part of his interest, and he went there with his brother. He then rang Liberation Foods a few years ago and said, "I've had an idea. I eat salted peanuts all the time, probably far too many of them, and I do this and that for fair trade, but I'd like to do a bit more. How about a brand called Harry's Nuts?" So we thought that was a really good idea. Harry makes no money from the brand at all. The first thing we did was take him and his brother out to Malawi to meet some of the smallholder farmers there that would benefit from the brand, and he came back and decided to go ahead with the brand.
And that's where the peanuts are grown, in Malawi?
In Malawi, Mozambique, Nicaragua.
And what are the main peanut producing countries in the world?
The main countries now are the USA, Argentina and China. Until the 1970s, the African countries were producing a lot of peanuts. For various reasons, those sales dropped off and the other countries took over.
What were those reasons?
Well, in Mozambique...
In short, yeah.
In Mozambique, one of the main reasons was war. In Malawi, there were issues with changes to European regulations, which meant that the Malawian peanuts no longer were able to be imported over here. So we have been working very hard with the farmers and the National Smallholder Farming Association of Malawi to bring standards high enough for them to be imported again. One of the important reasons we're doing this is because at the moment tobacco is the biggest export crop of Malawi. Those export sales are dwindling for various reasons, including the fact that people here are giving up smoking, and we are working with them to establish new crops, and we feel that the peanuts is a really excellent crop, both for us, because we love the variety that they grow over there, but also for their communities and their families, because it gives peanuts are full of vital nutrients, minerals, vitamins. So for a crop that lacks, for a country that lacks protein, it's a really great crop for them to grow.
And how do the terms you give your growers differ from those offered by the mainstream producers?
Well, we tell them in advance what we're going to need, so that they have that concrete information about how much they're going to sell. We work with them on any quality problems, so we don't just leave them if there's an issue. We work with them to solve that. We can give them money for pre-finance to help them in the run-up to marketing their crops or to planting their crops. We give them, we at least match the world price for peanuts. And on top of that, there's so as well as a Fairtrade minimum price, which at least matches the world price, there's an additional Fairtrade premium. That premium is spent on community projects, on improving the service they give to the farmers within their cooperative, that kind of thing.
So the Fairtrade premium doesn't go direct to the farmers themselves, it goes to a fund that is spent collectively? The
farmers decide democratically how the premium money is spent. So in Malawi, one of the things they've done is build a shelter for the relatives of hospital patients. Over here, if you're visiting a loved one in hospital, you probably just get the bus home afterwards. Over there, they can't afford to do that. In fact, the shelter is now largely being used by pregnant women who have complications in their pregnancy, who maybe are expecting twins, for example. They can't afford to go home between appointments, so many of them were sleeping in the open air. The shelter gives them somewhere to stay to protect themselves from the elements, which enables them to meet all their hospital appointments. These are things that we often don't think about in the richer part of the world, but it's just a wonderful service. And the farmers are particularly proud that money didn't come from charity; it came from
the money they earned.
Money they earned, yes.
Where are Harry's nuts sold?
They're sold in the UK in Sainsbury's, Waitrose, and Oxfam shops. And we're about to announce a new.
So those are the two of the major supermarket chains.
Yes, two of the major supermarket chains plus Oxfam shops is a charity chain, which and some of their stores also sell sort of fair trade snacks and.
Yeah, and do you have plans to extend the sale of these nuts to countries outside of the UK?
We don't have plans at the moment to do that. I think if we did, we'd probably need to change the packaging. At the moment, it very much shows Harry Hill on the front, and that might be a bit amusing for people.
Yeah, he's very much a UK comedian, isn't he? He wouldn't travel in that sense.
No, but the name Harry's Nuts, that could mean, I guess it could mean anything. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what kind of, you talked earlier about selling 80% of the Fairtrade peanuts in this country. What kind of turnover or quantity are you selling?
I mean, our sales are, compared to the size of the market, are still very small, and in a way it's a very new fair trade category, and I think when most people think about fair trade, they think about bananas or coffee.
Yeah.
So our sales, our turnover figure last year was 4.5 million.
Yeah.
Most of that is for the own label fair trade nuts, so say for Sainsbury's, own label cashew nuts, or Tesco's organic fair trade Brazil nuts, or but we're very keen to grow sales of our brands as well.
And just how much do you think you have as a proportion of the total nuts market?
Very small.
Yeah, so below 5%.
I would think so. Yeah.
Okay. So what does Fairtrade mean to how the brand works?
Well, the brand is very much, I mean, the Fairtrade is its backbone in the Harry's support for Fairtrade, and what Harry says is that he believes if all consumers could go and see Fairtrade work in the countries where it's operating, they would immediately come back and seek out Fairtrade everything. So it's very much the backbone of the brand. I mean, I think one of our problems we have various problems. One is that people think, they see his face on it and think he makes money out of it. It's an ordinary celebrity brand, which of course it isn't. And another is that people don't, by the time I think people get to the crisps aisle, that they've stopped thinking about ethical spending really. And so we've taken Fairtrade to new aisles in the supermarket, and we need to keep reminding people, keep looking for Fairtrade wherever you are in the shop.
And compared with other Fairtrade brands, presumably some of those make a much larger impact, a much larger proportion of sales within their respective markets.
Oh, do you mean brands, or do you mean
the actual commodities? So, for example, Fairtrade coffee, or
I mean, on the top of my head, it's difficult to remember, but I think Fairtrade bananas is something like 40% of the UK's bananas, and sugar as well is very high. In some ways, Fairtrade is making huge inroads, but in other ways and in other commodities, we really still are at very small proportions, and if people want to fight poverty when they're doing their shopping, it's a really, really good way of doing that.
Final question, how do you use social media to promote the brand?
We have a Facebook page and we have Twitter. I suppose one part of what we're doing is we're trying to unite Fairtrade supporters and Harry Hill fans. So we have two groups of people that we try and reach. And sort of as we post, we're sometimes reaching out to one group and sometimes reaching out to another.
And presumably, because you're a relatively small brand, you don't have large marketing budgets to support the brand profile.
Yes, you're absolutely right there.
Yes. Do you have any marketing budget?
We have a very, very small marketing budget, but Harry gives us a lot of his time. He's done interviews in a lot of newspapers, on television, on radio, we brought out peanut butter, and when we bring out other products, I think there's renewed interest in the media. So whereas we don't have an advertising budget, we do get editorial coverage, and where that works is where we can get a lot of messages across, where we can actually say Harry doesn't make money out of this, and the reasons why he thinks this was a really good idea.
Yeah, the reasons the brand exists.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we roast the nuts for longer to make them, we think, extra tasty. So, there are messages we want to get out to consumers, and when we don't just get a little bit at the end of an interview, when we get a nice big chunk, we think that's when things work the best.
Margaret, thanks for talking to me today.
Thank you.